NFL on a flash time here on Sports Radio WML.com with Joel Silverberg. I'm Eric Kane, and Joel, big win for the Titans after starting off hot, going downhill. Back-to-back wins, 2 wins in 6 days. Win over the New England Patriots. Not only a win, but a dominating win.
Yeah, absolutely. With two teams that I think Tennessee wouldn't have been favored against, having to go on the road to Dallas where they hadn't lost all season, and then getting New England at home, who came into that game winning 6 straight. Tennessee won 3 games straight earlier in the season, but this is really the first time we've seen them play 2 complete games in back-to-back weeks, and so it's easily the best 2-week stretch that the Titans have had all year. Their 2 biggest wins this season up to this point, I think. And you consider the 2 wins in the division earlier, but Tennessee really needed to beat Dallas to have a hope for its season with Houston being on a tear. But to go on and beat New England, you almost feel like you stole a game against the rest of the division, considering Jacksonville's falling apart. Indianapolis still under 500, though they've won 3 straight, and Houston having lost to New England earlier in the season. It's a big win for the Titans for sure.
After a slow start to the season on the ground, it looks like the offensive line is beginning to run block better. Dion Lewis is starting to get more yardage. And then Derrick Henry, a really, really slow start to the season, but he's tallied a rushing touchdown in each of the last 3 games. What kind of difference have you seen from big number 22?
I think it's a better job of utilizing the difference between Lewis and Henry and being willing to let Henry run between the tackles a little bit more. He likes to bounce it to the outside and use his speed in the open field, where Lewis kind of likes to hide behind offensive linemen and then sneak his way through, and it's finding a balance between the two of them. Lewis obviously had a huge game a couple weeks ago in the London game against the Chargers, which Tennessee ultimately lost, but Henry has done a nice job in the last 2 games of figuring out, hey, I can get to the outside and I can make plays, but I can utilize my skill set between the tackles. There's been some games this year where he's broken off a 10 to 15-yard run early by running between the tackles, and then the Titans don't seem to go back to that. I think Matt LaFleur is learning how to experiment with his backs a little bit more to be able to share the load between these 2 running backs.
Tennessee now 5-4 on the season, and Joel, they hit the road again, back into AFC South play to Indianapolis, where they haven't scored off against the Colts yet this season. Colts haven't won a lot of games this season, but they're scoring a lot of points. Andrew Luck is showing that he's getting healthier and healthier, and he can, where he might not have the deep throw anymore, he still has the accuracy and still a very good quarterback in this league. What do the Titans need to do to be successful?
Yeah, that probably hasn't been talked about enough, is how good Luck has been coming back from the injury, having not played football for so long, and now the Colts have won 3 straight games. After the controversial call in overtime, the decision to go for the win instead of play for the tie, and then they dropped to 1-5. Well, now they've won 3 straight games, and now, as crazy it is to believe, but they're not totally out of this division race. When you consider what Houston's doing, it's going to be tough to catch up, but Indianapolis could have a very respectable season when you consider how they were perceived at the beginning of the year. Tennessee's going to have to be able to play well in the secondary, and that pass rush, it was so good against Tom Brady, being able to get after and they continue to throw the house at Brady and the Patriots offense. The secondary is going to have to be able to play well, but they're going to have to do the same thing to Andrew Luck and try to disrupt his timing. Tennessee did a great job of that against New England on Sunday.
Houston still out in front in the AFC South, but a very winnable division, like Joel said. Elsewhere around the AFC, huge news yesterday. The 4 p.m. Deadline for the franchise tag came and went. LeVeon Bell was in Pittsburgh, but he did not sign his franchise tender, officially leaving $14.5 million on the table and forfeiting the 2018 season. We talked about in the first quarter this morning. I understand his protest. I understand his holdout to an extent because he's led the league in touches, yards from scrimmage each of the last couple of years, and he is just so overutilized. He wants to get a little bit more money, more or less like a receiver money compared to a running back, but also enough is enough at some point, and it's really unfortunate that there's going to be no Le'Veon Bell this season.
It is. It's unfortunate for Pittsburgh. It's unfortunate for football fans, and now you kind of wonder, man, with James Conner, I mean, he's a top 3 back in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. He's been an all-purpose back for them in terms of being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. I think for Le'Veon Bell, you kind of wonder, where is he going to be able to find a landing spot where they're going to be able to pay him that sort of money? Because you look at the last 2 years, all the non-first-round running backs that have been drafted are already having success in the NFL. Kind of shows you don't need to go pay big money if you're in need of a running back. You can find good running backs if you have the right scheme and you have the right offense for it. Le'Veon Bell, I think, is a fantastic running back, but somebody, a 26-year-old, be 27 during the offseason, and you just wonder, is he really going to be able to get that money? I think he will. Somebody is going to be willing to pay him because of his playmaking ability and how well he can catch the football out of the backfield. But that sort of workload does not have a high longevity. That does not continue for 3-4 years in a row. You look at what DeMarco Murray did a couple years ago for the Cowboys before coming to Tennessee. Workload was less significant. He still had a great couple of seasons in Tennessee, though that second year kind of riddled by some injuries. But then after 7 seasons, he's announcing his retirement. So the longevity just isn't there. You don't see backs having the sort of workload where they can rush for 2,000 yards in a season anymore.
New York Jets open up as a favorite to land LeVeon Bell next year. Real quick, who do you think's 2 teams that would be kind of in a bidding war for LeVeon Bell?
Well, I think the Jets, you can almost kind of see it with the type of player that he is, and the Jets kind of needing that flair. They've gone after the flashy signings before with Tim Tebow having a press conference for a backup quarterback who ended up being a personal protector.
Personal protector on punt team, yeah.
But you also look at, that's just kind of the signings that they go after. It would be tough for me to find a second landing spot. You just wonder if maybe a team like Baltimore, who doesn't have that diehard go-to back. You like what they have in Alex Collins and Buck Allen, but still wanting that go-to guy that could take a big workload like that. You just wonder if he could fit into a committee like that, but I'm not sure. I would imagine that he would stay in the AFC. I think it'd be interesting if he went to Baltimore, mainly to go to a division rival of the Steelers. That's just something that I would like to see. But you're right. I think right now the Jets, I could see them being the team most likely to give him that kind of money.
A lot of guys made plays, made headlines, made highlights throughout Week 10 of the NFL season. Time for our Playmaker of the week here on NFL Flash. And, Joel, I'm going to go with Darius Jennings. He's the guy that started it all for the Titans and, might not show up every week on the stat sheet, but a 59-yard opening kickoff return for the Titans set them up in New England territory in the opening drive. Less than 3 minutes later, Mariota finds Jonnu Smith for the touchdown, and the Titans got up early, and they never looked back. Later in the game, he was the one that actually threw the ball to Marcus Mariota down the near sideline on the trick play when Mike Vrabel decided to troll Tom Brady and his former franchise. So Darius Jennings really got the Titans off to a good start, and he's my Playmaker of the week.
Yeah, I'll throw out Odell Beckham Jr. I know we give him a lot of heat, but in a day where Saquon Barkley didn't have a lot going offensively until he had that big catch late in the fourth quarter, he had put New York in a position to win. A couple of touchdown catches, really helped Eli Manning out a lot. And so I think for Odell Beckham Jr. to have the game that he did last night, I know fantasy owners really loved him last night, and Barkley just didn't have his best game because the 49ers kind of shut that part of the offense down. It wasn't able to do a whole lot of pass catching out of the backfield, but then had the huge catch on the game-winning touchdown drive that set them out. But outside of that, kind of a quiet night for Barkley. Odell Beckham Jr. was big for Eli Manning, and the Giants get the win on Monday Night Football.
Titans back to work next Sunday in Indianapolis, 1 o'clock. As always, you can hear that game, the broadcast with Mike Keith and Titans Radio Network on News Talk 98.7, our sister station. With Joel Silverberg, I'm Eric Kane. This has been NFL in a Flash here on Sports Radio, WNML.com.